What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Friday Mastermind. Today, I have a special guest, a good friend of mine. I'll bring him on the stage here in just a minute, Mr. Paul Sloan. What's up, D-Bird?
What's up? Happy Friday. Got my red on in honor for Veterans Day. So happy Veteran Day to all those who have served, who's part of this community. And, just thank you. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And also just want to remind every mortgage professional out there that a VA loan is not a loan. I mean, it's a benefit that's given by America to veterans. And so remember, when you're helping someone make a decision on should they use their VA benefit, should they use an FHA loan so they still have it, like every time you are serving a veteran, you're not just doing a loan, you're delivering a benefit. So make sure you're giving them a total cost analysis. Make sure that you're helping them make the most informed decision possible as to how do they use their benefit? Do they use their benefit? It is not just another loan program, everyone. Just huge reminder. Also, I've got a number of interviews that I've done with leaders that serve military families. I do believe there's a playlist. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but I'm going to put a link down below to all of our content and interviews to serve military families. So thank you.
That's great. I didn't know you had that. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm going to introduce Paul, and then Deborah and I are going to mastermind with Paul. Dan Keller will be here. He is on another stage right now, but he'll be here at about 9:30 Pacific. It's going to be amazing. So guys, Paul Sloan has, I don't know if you guys are like me as adults, that most of your best friends are like, you met them in high school or college, you met them in your 20s. And then, in your 30s or 40s, you'll make friends, you'll make acquaintances, you'll meet people that you really like, but you don't make like lifetime friends, or at least you don't make a lot of them. And when we lived in Sonoma County, Kelly and I, well, I guess we met through school. Our kids went through the same school, and Paul has become one of those, like, as good as any high school friend, like lifetime friends. Now, that's not why I brought him on the show. I'm not bringing all my best friends on the show because he truly is an elite entrepreneur. Like, we don't have time to get into his entire story of how he went from working in a restaurant at age 14 to becoming the director of wine for John Ash, which is one of the most, well, at the time, it's still around. It's not the most elite restaurant.
Correct.
It was like the best wine list in Sonoma County back in the day, and he became the director of wine. And then today, he has one of the top wine brands in Sonoma County. The average price of a bottle of wine is $17-ish in America. Their least expensive wine is $55, and their most expensive wine is $125. So like, he has built a business from scratch, no silver spoon, built it from scratch. But I think there's something we can learn from him. So Paul, why don't you tell, how you were here for a wine tasting, you kind of had a room full of people, and how you told your story. Because I think, Deborah, let's unpack. I'm going to have him, tell his story. And then 2, I'm going to have him tell like a little 1 minute, 2 minute, what I call story of influence, a story of value that really helps people trust and respect you. So let's start with your how you would introduce yourself at a wine tasting.
My
no pressure, by the way.
Yeah,
it's only a couple of thousand people watching.
Right. Yeah. My passion for wine developed, like Dave said earlier, in the restaurant world. But I had grown up in Sonoma County on a 250-acre horse and cattle ranch. So when I started really diving into what were the best wines in the world, I realized that they were based on this sense of place, this land, and the farmers that were stewards of these vines and these properties. And when I started thinking about the fact that I didn't want to work in restaurants for the rest of my life, but I wanted to get back to being a steward of the land, I thought about, how do I want my life to look with my family, my girlfriend, who is now my wife and mother of my 2 children in their 20s, now. And so my wife and I designed this philosophy of being organic farmers, not irrigating our vines, and planting, designing, architecting a vineyard that would give us the style of wine that would leave a legacy. So as we started planting vineyards in 1998, so this is 25 years ago, I was still in my 20s when I started this business, and I had some of the best mentors in the business to work with. We started designing this vineyard where we kind of changed the mold. We were the black sheep of the farming community. We were importing equipment from Burgundy, and because nobody made tractors for us to farm the way that we wanted. So we did take a path a little less traveled. We also wanted to build a business that we could leave a legacy for our children. You know, planting a vineyard is a long-term process. It's not a fast return on investment. So we, wanted to develop this in a way where we didn't bring on equity investors and so forth. We developed it through borrowing money and finding people that believed in us. So we took private loans and that sort of thing, but gave away no equity. And that's hard to do, the debt servicing. So we were very frugal, still are. We live on the farm that where our winery is, but we've created all of these goals that we set out, the vision that we kind of put in front of us for having a family farm, farming organically, not irrigating the vineyards, creating a world-class product that would be recognized across the world for quality, for stewardship of the land, environmentally sound farming practices, et cetera. And it's amazing when you look back, and not every direction was easy, not every day was easy, but when you look back and you say, wow, we've actually achieved our goals. But of course, as an entrepreneur, you're always looking to drive things forward. You're always looking to continue to improve, setting new goals for yourself, because that's what we thrive on. So
here we go. So first of all, like, cool dude, doing something really unique and special. Who are some of the restaurants where your wine is carried?
If you think about the major 3 Michelin star restaurants across the country, that's where we're at. The French Laundry, Per Se in New York, 11 Madison. In Sonoma County, we now have Single Thread Farms. It's our first 3 Michelin star restaurant. Cyrus, another 2 Michelin star restaurant in Sonoma County. So, these are the establishments that are representing our wines in a beautiful way.
And super hard to do. So now I'm going to have him tell a 1 to 2 minute story, and then we'll get into what can the mortgage industry learn from one of the most premium wines in America. So we were at lunch yesterday with his Orange County broker, and this is the guy who represents him in this market, and he's got a bottle of Chardonnay that sells for $75, and that's not an inexpensive bottle of Chardonnay. And then he has another Chardonnay that sells for $55, right? It's $55 and $75. And they were like, the $55 one was the one that they were selling. And they didn't even know how to position the $75 bottle of wine. So I want you to tell that, like, how you were telling the story, the difference between 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So take a minute or two and tell this story. And then, guys, I think what we're at. Well, first of all, you tell that story, and then Deb, I want to hear your takeaways from this, and then I've got a few thoughts. Go ahead.
So when I started studying viticulture and I started thinking about, how do I want to farm? Of course, I wrote a letter to one of the best producers in the world, Domaine Romanée-Conti. They're in Burgundy region of France. And when I got to prune with them, they invited me there. I got to prune with them for a day. This is an action where we're pruning the vines when they're dormant, cutting them back. I learned that they harvest based on a criteria of sorting the fruit in the vineyard for quality. And they sort for 2 different quality levels. The ideal growth on a plant would have 15 leaves and 2 clusters of grapes on it. And those are the best clusters in the vineyard. Anything that has more or less leaves than that is declassified into a lower price point wine. For them, they don't even put it under the same label. So I had never heard of anybody doing this in America. So when I came back from Burgundy, obviously inspired from this mentoring pruning session that I had, I started practicing this. I started seeing, does it actually make better wine, right? Why do it if it doesn't make better wine? Well, once you see that it makes much more complex wine, that the ageability of that fruit is so much greater than what I put into my Sonoma Coast or $55 bottle of wine, it sort of sheds light on, yes, there's a tremendous level of detail. Imagine getting 25 Hispanic farm workers to see the vision of counting leaves and this criteria. But when you do, and they taste the wines themselves and they're blown away at what work they're doing, it becomes easy. The commitment level you have for that level of excellence becomes easy and fun. So that's kind of how we came up with these two different bottles of wine.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so these two bottles of wine are both on the same piece of property. They're both taken care of exactly the same. One is like when they prune it, he's picking the best of the best. So it's like usually in almost, is it like every winery in America, like when they go, they just harvest everything. Correct. No one does two passes. These guys go and they pick, and he picks like, hey, what is the best of the wines to be picked right now? And they pick them. And that's the $75 bottle of wine. And then 3, 4, 5 days later.
3 or 4 days later.
3 or 4 days later, they go do that job all over again. And that creates a $50 wine. Well, so first of all, before I kind of share some takeaways that I have as to how does this all connect to being a mortgage professional, I'll let you go first, Deborah. Any thoughts you have, any takeaways from what he said so far?
I mean, just the level of detail and commitment that you had towards your vision. And I think just pointing out the fact that it all started with a very clear vision that you and your girlfriend or wife now have, and not, allowing yourself to lower the standards. And I also think the fact that you wrote a letter to the best to learn, I mean, that shows you crave to be the best and you're willing to learn, and you are passionately aggressive in seeking that help. So my question to those who are listening on this call right now is who is the best, whether it's in the country, in your market center? Would you be willing to write them a letter and sit down and learn at what level of intensity of detail do they take within their mortgage business? Like Paul just shared with looking at how many leaves, like literally counting leaves to make sure that you have the best of the best. So I just think it's incredible. And it goes back to just details and commitment to excellence.
Yeah. So, and you wouldn't, I'm going to share a takeaway that I had from it. I watched him 3 times because I also was like his executive assistant for the past few days. I've been going to his meetings with
Lord.
people. Yeah, no, we've been hanging out like day and night for 2 days. And I've heard him tell these stories. And I heard like in a 2 to 3 minute story, he went from like, he literally increased the price and the value that this person perceived the price, like with a 2 minute story, so he's got these go-to 1 minute, 2 minute stories that create perceived value. Also, like in the wine business, a lot of the difference between a $55 bottle of wine and a $17 bottle of wine, there's absolutely a different quality of the product and the flavors, but there's also a story. Like you do not sell wine for $125 unless it's incredibly high quality and it's got a great story. And Paul has had to tell these little 1 minute, and you could just tell like that's his go-to how to create value with a $75 bottle of Chardonnay. And so my message to the mortgage industry, I don't think anyone that tunes into what we do has the lowest price. And I don't think anyone who has the lowest price, they don't have it the next day. Like who has the lowest price always changes. And if you are going to kill it as a local referral-based mortgage professional, and you want to be a premium player, you want to be literally delivering at the highest value, your story matters. And you know what matters even more than your story? Your ability to tell your story matters. And And that's the other thing. It's not just telling your story, it's telling your story and then having these little 2-minute go-to stories that you tell at the right time with the right person to elevate your perceived value. Any thoughts on that?
I would say the same thing, Dave. I agree. But one other word comes to mind for me, and that's authenticity. That you truly believe that you're adding value by sharing that story at that point in time. That it's not just about closing the deal, but it's really by saying these things, I'm helping this person with their vision that they've shared with me. And, if you can ask them the right questions, pull that vision out of them so that then your story is helping them make the right decision. You go to bed that night feeling like you've helped people and you also get help from it. So that's an amazing feeling for me when I create that. So
all right, so Paul is going to join us into the mastermind. By the way, Marina, Dan is going to be here. He's going to be a little bit late. He'll probably be here in about 15 minutes, so stay tuned, and hopefully we're delivering some value and some entertainment at the same time. Everyone who is into wine, go check out Small Vines on Instagram. If you like good wine like I do, get on their mailing list. They've got a really informational, everything Paul does. Like guys, look at the back of his wine bottle. Like, where is the camera? Where's the sweet spot? There it is, right there. Well, anyways, the way his label is labeled, it's transparent and it's educational. I mean, it's probably one of the many reasons why we've just become such close friends while we are in totally different businesses, grew up, vastly different. Like, I just feel like, we think the same, we believe the same thing. So hopefully you got
Dave,
some
can
value.
I ask Paul one more question? Is that okay? So you mentioned you guys were kind of like the black sheep of the farmers. And so I'm curious, was there ever a moment in time when you're like, maybe we should do this the way everybody else is doing it? Or like, I'm sure it was really hard to push through and be so committed to that goal when there was potentially an easier way. So how did you have a moment like that? How did y'all overcome it? Because for those listening, there's a lot of loan officers right now who are struggling with their business and they're wondering, is there a better way? Or maybe I just need to, give up. And, so how did you overcome it? What was that point in time? And would you be willing to share?
Yeah, absolutely. And great question. When Catherine and I started the business in 1998, and we were planting vineyards on other people's property, but in November of 2007, so remember, this is right before 2008, right? We bought a 12.5 acre farm. We borrowed personal money to develop the vineyard. When it came to 2009, 2010, the vines were in production. We went out seeking a bank loan to take out the private investor so that we didn't have to give up equity in our company. At that moment, having planted 3,600 vines per acre when the average person plants 1,000 vines per acre, I felt like I was Walt Disney talking to banks. I put together a package. I was seeking a loan, and most people were like, oh, it'll never appraise. So I realized that it was the appraiser was the key to this whole equation, because I invested hundreds of thousands more dollars in developing this property than anybody else would have. Had I just planted the 8-foot tractor row, I would have easily gotten a loan. Planting a 4-foot tractor row, this number of vines, I went over the budget. Well, I found an appraiser that was willing to look at it as a business model. Okay, how many $89 or $75 bottles wine are you going to get from this? That's the revenue that can be generated. So therefore, here's the value of the property. And I reverse engineered. I found out what banks hired him as an appraiser. I went to 74 different banks to present my package. And finally, I found Redwood Credit Union that reached out to him as the appraiser, and I put together the deal. It took me 1.5 years to find that. I didn't stop going to banks. I didn't take that no as an answer and just say, okay, I need to give up equity and roll this into something else. I kept searching for the solution and I found it. And that farm is still a family farm today. And it was an amazing accomplishment. My wife and I aren't bankers and mortgage officers, but we had to learn enough about it to figure out how to reverse engineer this and put it together. So that was a really fun but challenging point in our career.
Beautiful. What an amazing
Yeah.
inspirational story.
Absolutely. Relentless. 74 different banks. Can you imagine after a year and a half, like how many people, the average person would have just quit after how many no's, and given up. So, wow, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
So cool.
Walt Disney was my inspiration at that point.
Yeah,
if Walt can do it, I can do it.
So Deborah, we got Dan coming in about 10 minutes. So you really lead this last 10 minutes. Anything you want to talk about?
Well, so I'd really like to go and dive in, have like a little bit of a debrief, if you don't mind, from your Tuesday call with Daniel Saul. That was the first time I've ever heard him speak on Mortgage Coach. And if you guys haven't heard that interview, I would make this one like a mandatory must watch for all branch managers, which, let's face it, the branch manager role, especially if you're a producing branch manager, like that is we call it a shit sandwich. It can be very difficult from, hurting loan officers plus, motivating them and also doing your own production. So I'd love to spend a little bit of time debriefing that, if that's okay with you, Dave.
Yeah. But before you do, I just want to, tell his story because I interviewed him for the first time about a month ago, and it was spectacular. I mean, he is in Central Ohio, out of Columbus, Ohio. He's become the #1 market share leader. He's got about 35 loan officers. By the way, 35 loan officers that average 6.4 loans per month per loan officer, which is incredibly uncommon. His personal team is going to do about 385 loans this year. So, I mean, he's like the 1% of the 1%. But to me, what really made him so special is how he has scaled that. Like, we've interviewed not a lot because there's not a lot of people that are the 1% of 1%, but now he's created a culture of, he's institutionalized it, and they're all mortgage coaches. So he's done an incredible job of scaling Mortgage Coach. He's done an incredible job of scaling Sales Boomerang and, leveraging technology. So I just wanted to showcase that. One more thing, Deborah, before you do your debrief on that. His first interview was so impactful. I had it transcribed, and I wrote Daniel and I wrote this. It's a playbook, it's on LinkedIn. We'll put a link down below, but it really unpacked my first interview with him. Now I am going to expand this, or I might even write another one. But I just want you to know, I really feel like what he's doing is so special. I want to create some real content and playbooks around this. So with that said, Deborah, go ahead and unpack what you got from it.
Well, the biggest thing that stood out to me is the fact that if the average LO is closing about 1.6 loans per month, he has 35 loan officers that are closing 6.4. So there's obviously, a strategy and repeatable results. It's not like, this only worked with a few, and that's really hard to do. And the first thing that he talked about was mindset and standards. And so for those of you listening, I would ask you, do you believe that you are better than your competition? Because that's kind of where it all started, is he talked about you have to really believe that. And it goes back to, your current thoughts of the market. And he stated that so many have just accepted that things are hard, and therefore they're just waiting for things to get easier. So I would write down almost like a key chart. Have my kids do this a lot whenever they're going into like panic mode sometimes, where I tell them, write down all your thoughts that you're having that you believe to be true right now with the market. And then if you had to reframe those thoughts in a way that's more serving for you. Yes, interest rates are higher. How would you rewrite that? Yes, inventory is lower. How could you rewrite that? So that way you're reframing those thoughts, because we know a lot of our activities and results are based off what we think and what we believe. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight is, we talk about a lot, Dave, about building confidence within our home buyers and our real estate agents and helping them make more confident and competent decisions. But he's doing that at scale with his loan officers first. Like he's taking, and he calls it an intensity of coaching. Like it is an internal coaching program where they break down every single detail of acquiring new agent relationships to maintaining those, to how do you conduct your presentation, with a buyer consultation. And for the branch managers, I thought, how powerful is it that he sets up 2 meetings a week, one that's more skill based and one that's more training, where he's having them perform, and he's giving that safe place to work on kind of the things like what you talked about, Paul, with your stories and your little micro stories. If you don't practice and put in the reps, how are you ever going to feel confident when you are meeting in front of someone? Because you can kind of feel like a fraud because you're not, practicing, you haven't rehearsed. And so your thoughts are like, am I really going to be able to help them? And so if your loan officers don't have the reps right now, because let's face it, some of the leads are down for a lot of people, then are you, as a branch manager, training and equipping your loan officers, enforcing almost those interactions so that they can feel confident and they can feel when they make those calls to agents or they meet with buyers that like, I am the best person. Like I have this conviction that I am worth the $75 versus the $55 bottle of wine, because we pay attention to the details and we want to wow people. So that those were the first 2 things that just came to mind, was just his, again, relentless pursuit for excellence. And they are picky with who they acquire on the team. It's not for the average, it's for those who have the hunger and the desire to be better. And he will help you be better. Now you have to put in the work to get there, but he creates that systematic process that is clearly repeatable with 35 different LOs right now. And now he's taking, the #1 seat for market share in Ohio. So he was incredible.
Yeah, no, it's super special. A few things I just want to put an exclamation mark on that he did. He opened up, and you could feel it in his words, and also his passion, his pathos. I mean, you can just feel like mindset and standards. So like who's coming in are people that are like all in every day. Like you gotta be that person. And then clearly, he's identifying best practices and processes that matter, and he's training on them. And I want to say this to tee up Dan Keller, who's going to be here in a minute. Dan is going to share some ideas, some strategies they're going to be powerful. Like it's going to be what we need to do to help families get into homeownership in this market. Because here's the deal, guys: no one is confident and clear about the market right now. Whether you own a home and you want to move up, you're not clear and confident. Should I sell my home? Chances are you got a 2 or 3 or 4% interest rate, and rates are at 7%. There's concerns like, are real estate values going to come down, or are they going to keep going up? When are rates going to come down? So everyone is confused, and your ability to create personal clarity for them so that they can create personal confidence so that they can enter the market in a confident way, like that is a skill that requires strategy. It requires skills, and you need to train on it. So when Dan Keller comes, anyone that's watching this, the bigger audience is going to be watching it on YouTube. So for all of you that are watching this on YouTube right now, all the links are down below in show notes. So, where the video's up here, we got show notes. We'll have a link to that Daniel Saw interview, both of the interviews and the playbook that I did with him. But are you going to train? Are you going to take it and train? And if you're a branch manager, are you going to give assignments to your team? And he even did a live role playing. I think we did about 15 or 20 minutes, which, by the way, guys, that would be another reason why to watch this, is he literally did a 20-minute mock role play. He had one of his teammates on it, on how to conduct his 7 steps to creating 7 steps at every realtor meeting. So he literally went through, here are the 7 steps that I go through consistently with every time I meet with an agent, and he role played on it. Are you guys clear with the 7 steps you go through every time you meet a realtor? And if you're not doing that, make sure you do it. So by the way, I saw lots of hearts, hands. How many people watching this right now were on that call. You saw the Daniel Say interview so far. Give me a thumbs up real quick. Okay, so yeah, so sweet.
Well,
Thanks
Dave,
for
and
being
another
active,
thing that
everybody.
he said is basically telling is not selling. And so he had stories that he could share or visual examples to just affirm what he says. Because, you know, sometimes talk is cheap. We know that some can have commission breath. And if you don't have the visuals that prove, like, hey, Mr. or Miss Agent, if communication is important to you, here's our communication standard. And that's really, at the end of the day, kind of what you said is they have standards that to be on this team and to play at this level, these are the things that you must do, I would say by noon, which is part of role playing,
Win by noon.
scripting. Yeah, every client gets a TCA, but he had those things ready to show. These are all the points of when we communicate with you. So do you guys have those visuals to demonstrate or prove your words to be true? Because everyone in the back of their mind, every agent's like, yeah, every loan officer tells me this and they don't follow through. So how are you any different? That's what they're thinking. And so I just was so impressed with how clear on every little detail, of every facet of the process he had dialed in to the point where he could role play like he did. And it's like, you believed it. And his
Yeah.
whole goal was to get the agent to be like, wow, which ironically was what your business was first called, Dave, because you're constantly trying to get that, wow, this person knows what he's doing, you know.
Well, it looks like we're getting Dan Keller in hot.
DK in the
Hey,
house.
Dan Keller, we need to do another scroll stopping photo because we didn't have Dan and he was like the bill. So Paul, if you'd get another picture of us doing something fun with our hands, go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So by the way, guys, that's how it's done in the back end so that when we share this on social media, we got a cool photo that shows up on
Keeping it
social.
weird.
Now we usually do that before we start recording. What's up, DK?
Hey guys, I'm super stoked to be here. I heard you had a wine guy on, so I went and got in one of the business rooms at the hotel with a little wine backdrop.
Yeah.
So
I'm in
so
home
Dan,
country.
so Dan, I'm gonna introduce his wife who manages their social media platform, Catherine, to your wife. And make sure she follows Small Vines because how many followers does Jenny have now on Instagram?
150, 160 or something like that. I don't know. She's slow and steady, and she just Bloomingdale's just came to Seattle and launched their store, and they reached out to her and had her just manage the whole entire launch. So it's just little cool things like that. But she's
182,000 followers, and none of them were purchased, by the way. None of these were bought.
No, all organic.
Yeah.
So everyone watching this, you can learn so much by following Jenny Keller, and not only the movement she's made. Like it's more than a bake shop. It's more than pretty cookies. Like she just creates sunshine. So make sure you follow her. Make sure you follow Small Vines. And Paul's actually, him and his wife are going to put a lot of energy into taking that brand to the next level this year. So Dan, you had some ideas. Like I said, hey, what you said yes, you could make it. You had a topic, a headline. Tell everybody why you picked the headline, and then give us a training, bro. Let's rock.
No, this is super relevant right now. I think that we have a lot of people. I just got back from, in my opinion, one of the top mortgage conferences in America, and listening to top producers all over the country talk about pain points and how they're overcoming, pains in this market. One of them is just getting through to borrowers that, stomach the 8%, the 7.5% rate, wherever it is, and don't focus. I just posted this on Instagram, and I don't know if it posted yet, but the market matters more than the interest rate. Focus on the market, the opportunities in the market. The rate's a distraction. The rate is a complete distraction. I talked to my daughter this morning. She's playing, so I'm wearing this right now. I'm over in Yakima. She's playing in the state volleyball tournament, the high school state volleyball tournament. And, I said, hey, how you doing? I was down in the lobby early this morning working, and the team came down for breakfast. I said, how you doing? She's like, I don't know. I mean, kind of nervous. And we talked about this the other day, that nerves are good. Nerves are good. That's okay. That's an okay emotion. That's an okay feeling. But here's the thing, Allie, how many times have you served a volleyball? And I said, fear and anxiety oftentimes is you projecting into the future. You're projecting something of the unknown. I said, be where your feet are. It's Nick Saban. Be where your feet are, be in the moment, trust the process, trust all of your training. And I think that buyers right now in this market, home buyers, they need leadership. They need education. I don't think real estate agents, most of them don't have what we have with MortgageCoach and the numbers and people like Deb putting it out into the social media for them and with them to confidently sit down with a buyer. I meet with realtors every single week and they're just like, God, I'm so grateful that I have you. I could have never thought of this or said this. And it's just what I'm going to show you guys today with MortgageCoach, combined with Barbara Corcoran, combined with, all of our economists, Dan Rawich and Barry Habib and all these smart people that they spend their lives studying the market, the data for us, right? And then what we get to do is we get to take that and we get to apply it to the market. And what I wanted to share with you guys, and this is what I want to share with you, my talk track, kind of in a bullet point format. We're not going to necessarily role play like I'm sitting down with a client, but what I want you guys as loan officers to get, this is what I'm training my loan officers on. We have to have these bullet points, these little sound bites, if you will, from Barbara Corcoran, when she states that, hey, every 1% drop in interest rate is going to bring 5 million new buyers into the market. Hey, every 1% drop in interest rate is going to cause home values to go up about 10 to 12+% because of those 5 million new buyers coming into the market. They can't afford to buy right now, right? And so sharing that data and then saying, Mr. and Mrs. Home Buyer, what do you think right now with what you're seeing on Redfin or your app that you're using? What do you think right now 5 million buyers into this market will do to home values or the competition? And they're like, wow, there'll be more competition because there's not a lot of inventory, correct? And that props up home values even more. So would you rather, I think it was the nerd that posted something like, and probably you had something to do with this too, Deb, a few weeks ago, that was like, pick your option. Would you rather pay, don't quote me on this, but $20,000 in interest, or would you rather pay $80,000 more for the house? I'm not telling you what to do. I'm showing you the data, and I was like, pick your option. I know what I would choose. I would rather owe $80,000 less and then go rework that mortgage. But realtors aren't able to explain it this way. We have MortgageCoach within 5 minutes made the report that I'm going to share with you. And now I can show what Denise showed on social media to a buyer, to a borrower, and then watching the lights just go off, the light bulbs just go off. Oh my God, I didn't think of it that way. Call their realtor out looking at homes, and the realtor's calling me going, I don't know what you said to them, but they were putting this off for another year. I was like, yeah, I showed them this report. That's why you use me. That's why you want all your buyers coming to me, because I'm a mortgage coach. So anyhow, that's my intent today. I have 2 reports. One where Deb does amazing work with this, and a lot of my inspiration comes from Deb with this stuff, but it's called news hacking. So what kind of just hit the news last week? Fannie Mae allowing a multifamily 5% down. I just shared this at a homebuyer class. So we had 52 people show up to our homebuyer class downtown Seattle on Wednesday night. And this 2-minute talk on just these guideline changes and an opportunity. And then I shared this report, and literally we had almost 25 people afterwards stay after just to ask about this option. And so using news, using guideline changes, using MortgageCoach to get this information out, and then using this info when you sit down with borrowers, so important. And right now in this market, you have to believe it first off. I believe it. And then here's what I anchor all this stuff down with. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Blackstone. I wrote down even more because I read an article this morning that identified 2 more. Blackstone has purchased $880 billion of residential real estate over 2022 and 2023. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, the same thing. There's 2 other companies, I can't pronounce them, that have done the exact same thing. Why are wealthy billion-dollar companies buying residential real estate right now? Because there's an opportunity. Shouldn't we be doing what they're doing? Let's do what they're doing when they're doing it instead of doing it after they do it. Because if you do it after they're doing it, you're missing out on that opportunity. The stock has already gone up, right? So those are some of the things that I'm sharing. Dave, I'll pull up this report if you don't mind, if I have access.
Yeah. So real quick before you pull it up. So I want to, we're going to edit this and make a piece of micro content. This is, Dan Keller's off the fence buyer playbook. I just want to make sure we anchor the frame. You know, he had the frame, every point in interest rate is 5 million homes, new buyers in the market. You notice he shared that, and then he asked the client a question to get buy-in. He's not just preaching, he's having a conversation with people, and he's creating a frame. And then he created the second frame based off of data and facts that these large, not billion, like multi-billion dollar, worldwide investment platforms are buying residential real estate in America at scale. And now there's going to be stories. So think of it as, that's the frame. These are the stories. We're following the Amplify Renee Rodriguez framework, frame, message, tie down. Like, guys, this is how it's done. So go ahead, let's do the story part of it. And Deb, feel free to ask questions and be ready. I'm going to bring you back into this conversation. Like, what did a world-class wine guy learn from Mortgage Guys?
We drink a lot of wine in markets like this.
Make sure it's small vines wine, guys. Let's go.
Small vines. That's it.
Everybody's got to buy a case.
For sure. So I'll start with this and then I'll share my screen. As I'm sitting down with the client before we really get into the weeds on this stuff, I always like to tell them how I believe that every single person should look at the market right now. Okay. To have complete perspective and clarity on the market, you have to go back in time. What has the market done? Then you have to look at the current reality. What are we actually dealing with today? Okay, what is it, November 10th, 2023? What are we dealing with? What just happened? The Fed didn't raise the Fed rate. Mortgage rates came way down over the last week, which is great. Okay, so this is our current reality right now. And then based off of what's happening in the past and our current reality, what is that going to cause the market to do in the future? That's where I bring in the JP Morgan, the Goldman Sachs, what people are doing now, the 1% drop in interest rates. And so I think by doing that, you guys, it lowers the level of, okay, this guy's selling me on a home. He's educating me through the market. So I'm going to say, hey, over the last 16 years in the mortgage industry, this is what I've seen. Nothing like this. So we're in this together. But what I know is that I own real estate. I have money invested in the stock market. I'm knocking on the door a few years of 50 years of age. I don't want to start over when I'm 50. Most of my clients are younger first-time home buyers right now. So I'm like, I have a lot more to lose in this market than you guys do. Would you agree? Cool. So I'm constantly talking with my financial planner. I'm constantly researching and learning for you. And what I can tell you is that I've gone back to 1970 to current, and I took the Fed rate, I took mortgage rates, I took CPI, and I took Case-Shiller. And I explained what each of those are: inflation, CPI, Case-Shiller, home values. And I stacked them on top of each other. And I want you to notice, and I pull up this chart, and I want you to notice that every time the Fed raises the Fed rate, you see the Fed rate going up, you'll see the red line of mortgage rates going up too. But every time they stop raising the Fed rate and even either plateau or they raise it and they're like, oh, shoot, we overshot the runway. And then they start coming back down, mortgage rates follow right there with them. But home values barely flinch. And I leave it at that. So last week, the Fed spoke. They held raising the Fed rate. They may still have one Fed rate hike on the table this year, but they've been very clear, one and done, and then they're done. So we know that in the next quarter or two, we're going to start seeing more relief in interest rates. Okay, so data doesn't lie. That's in the past, okay? Our current reality, we talk about the Fed, we talk about what the market's doing. Despite all these rates, all the pundits said that real estate was going to crash. Mr. Smith, have you seen real estate crash in the last year? So I have them answer these questions for themselves. And they're like, no, in fact, it's competitive, or home values are going up, or I don't even think we can afford. We don't even want to buy right now with 8% plus where home value is at. Okay, cool. So if the market was going to crash, it would have done it by now. So we spent a little bit of time in the present, and then we talk about the future. And that's where I loop in Mortgage Coach. And so I always say, hey, I want to share something with you. And I am not here to sell you on anything. I'm here to advise you and give you options. I'm all about options. I want all my clients to pick their plan. That's what I literally say. I want you to pick your plan. So John and Cindy, okay, based off of your pre-approval or the information I have from you right now, you're going to be looking in the $800,000 price point, okay? 10% down, $800,000 price point. Interest rates are 7.75, for example, right now. Okay, if you bought right now at 10% down, your total monthly payment is going to be just shy of $6,000 a month. That makes you flinch. Guys, this is what is holding people back right now. This is scaring America right now. But this is why we're sitting down. This is why your realtor said, I want to introduce you to Dan Keller, because of option number 2. We have strategies right now in this market. You can't offer $100,000 below list price or even $50,000 below list price, but you can get the seller to pay your closing costs, possibly up to 3% in certain cases. So if we could negotiate a 2-1 buy down, look what that does to your monthly payment for year 1. Saves you about $1,000 a month for year 1. And then they're like, wow, that's crazy. And we talk about that. We talk about year 2. We talk about year 3. But then I share, but most of my clients, when I start talking with them, initially their knee-jerk reaction to the market right now is option 3. And they're going to want to wait for rates to drop, because we all know rates are going to drop. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, do you believe rates are going to drop? And they're like, yeah, I believe rates are going to drop. Cool. So let's say a year, year and a half from now, rates drop to 5.5. Look at that monthly payment. Isn't that awesome? They're like, yeah, 54 is more like it, 54, 55. But I said, look at this though. Let's go up to line item number 1. You're having to pay $100,000 more for that home in Seattle. So you're having to finance now. You owe now $100,000 more. Let's go back to option 2. You buy it at 800. You deploy a 2-1 buy down, so you're saving even more on the first year. You're about 55-ish for the second year. I believe that in the next 1 to 2 years, rates are going to be down so that we can refinance you. Now I talk about New American Funding and our ability to pay for the appraisal and the loan fees. So you're saving money there, make them feel good about that. And now we're able to start talking about future net worth. And then I go down to the bottom. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I always love this. Your net worth in 5 years compared to renting versus owning, you're going to add literally $500,000 to $750,000 to your net worth by owning real estate. And so this now paves the way, you guys, for, and loan officers, I want you to hear this. This paves the way now for us to have more of a strategic conversation versus us doing what most realtors do. And that's pitch, pitch, pitch. Is now a good time to buy? Yeah, it's a great time to buy. Why is it a good time to buy? And most realtors don't know how to do what we do. So this is our superpower, I believe, in this market right now, is to go out and share this stuff like Deb does, and her sister Denise does an amazing job sharing all of these little things on social media. Realtors see this. It's no doubt she's a mega producer, because realtors see this stuff and they're like, holy crap, I need this in my business. So I want to encourage you guys to make more reports like this, show the options. Hey, pick a plan. Okay, would you rather pay $20,000 more in interest over a 1.5 year period? Or would you rather pay $80,000 to $100,000 more for the house and owe that $80,000 to $100,000 more? Because this option 2 in the middle here will mitigate both of those. So I like sharing that one. I don't know, Dave, if you have any questions, I can answer those, or I can go right over to the next.
Let's see what the audience thinks, guys. Give us a reaction if you dig that and you got some value from it. Also, remember, we got Dan Keller here for another 12 minutes. If you have questions, lots of good feedback there. If you're watching this on YouTube and you got value from that, give it a like, help us with the algorithms. Share this with your mortgage friends. And most importantly, guys, don't just watch this. Like, if you just watch this and you're, oh, that's a good idea, it's cool, I'm going to do that someday. No. Train on this. If you're a branch manager and you do not feel like you're doing this, I mean, first of all, you need to lead by example before you're going to be influential with your team. So, have the self-discipline and commitment to master these strategies, and then have a sales meeting with your team. You can use part of this video as a tool at your next sales meeting. Like, it takes a village. Check out what Dan Keller's doing, and then train on this. And remember, training on it, just because you had one sales meeting, you talked about this, you're not done. You gotta show the idea. You gotta assign to your team, okay, everybody, you're gonna go and do this. We're gonna have another sales meeting and we're gonna role play. So be ready to come to the next meeting and role play. And I think within, Dan, call it the micro lesson you just gave us. It's probably like a total of 5 minutes of role playing time. And, let's say you got 5 people in your branch. Everybody does their 5-minute version. People give feedback in a very, positive and critical way. And by the way, you're probably still not done. You got to do another meeting and another role play. But if you guys master this, you will be a true asset to realtors. Like you will be bringing value beyond like, oh, I can close loans on time. I have great rates. So share the next strategy, Dan, and then I'm going to have our I don't know, what do you call it? Like outside the mortgage industry, our citizen,
Citizen's perspective.
give some feedback on this. So what do we do the next one, Dan?
I love it. Okay, before I do that, you guys, I want you, if you have a pen or a pencil or you want to hit record, you're going to want to record this. This is gold. Two things right here, because everything I'm doing right now is based off of sales activity. Okay, we have to be prospecting. I said something on a coaching call. I was doing a coaching call in a VA group, a Veterans Mortgage Council group the other day. And I said, I truly believe this, that if you are not out hunting for business right now, in 6 months, you'll be hunting for a new job. Okay. So I'm going to arm you right now with the ammunition to go out and hunt for business. People are like, I don't want to call loan officers. Like, I don't want to call realtors. Everyone's calling realtors. I don't know what to say. Cool. I'm going to give you something to say. And it's using MortgageCoach, since you guys are all mortgage coaches. You just saw my report. You're going to call up a realtor, and this is all you're going to say. Once you get through the small, you tell them who you are, where you're from. I have a report that I have to share with you that will help you make money, period. I promise you. I have a report that I need to get in front of you that will help you close more transactions this year and through this coming market. Well, can you just email it over to me? Nope, it's too valuable for that. I know what your average commission is. I'm not just going to email it over. Do you want to close an extra 6 transactions in the next 6 months, or are you happy with where you're at? Nobody's happy with where they're at right now, guys. That's a newsflash. Realtors are struggling as much, if not more, than real estate agents, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to make this exact report that I just showed you, and you're going to make the next report that I'm going to show you now, and you're going to sit down and you're going to show a realtor this. Then you're going to call up Deb at Plug and Play. You're going to say, build me out a social media strategy around this and deploy it, okay, between you and the realtor. That's how you're going to do it. And Deb can probably make this way better than what I've got, okay? This Fannie Mae one, though, is going to blow your mind. And I wish Cody Touche is in my market, big time real estate investor, superstar loan officer. Cody could probably already has showcased this one.
And I'm going to put a link down below because I interviewed Cody last month. He's done thousands of MortgageCoach reports, kills it with investors. So check out the Cody Touche interview down below.
So this one is where we have an opportunity right now to help people. And I know Dave and Deb and all you guys listening to this are so passionate about creating wealth for our clients. This is the #1 wealth building machine that I can see right now in our market. Okay. Fannie Mae is allowing you now on the 18th of November to purchase a multifamily home with 5% down. Okay. So for the sake of discussion, I used a fourplex. Okay, we can go up to 1.47 million in the Seattle marketplace with 5% down. I know that's crazy. A $1.5 million house with 75 grand down. That's ridiculous, but it is what it is. So I'm using a fourplex. I'm using rents of about $2,500 to $3,200 a month. We're going to live in one of the units. We're going to rent out the other 3. Okay, so these are just examples here that I'm sharing with a client. But if you shared this with a first-time home buyer, and in your initial mortgage planning consultation, they're interested in creating wealth in real estate, they're interested in investing in real estate one day, this right here will get you referrals. This right here will connect you with more agents. Agents see this. I've shared this at a home buyer class. The agent invited me on his podcast. The other 2 agents that were there were like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe this even exists. And the funny thing is it's backed by Fannie Mae, the #1 insurer of mortgages. So this isn't like some Alt-A crazy loan program. So I'll give you the overview on this like I'm explaining it to a client. Right now, you can buy a fourplex in the Seattle marketplace up to 1.47 million with 5% down. I'm using an 8.5% 30-year fixed rate right now. It's probably a little bit lower since I made this over the last week. But your total monthly payment, okay, let's all cringe together. Your total monthly payment is $12,428 a month. That includes homeowners insurance, a lot of PMI, and property taxes. Okay, and I explain it just like I'm talking right now to clients. This is what keeps people on the sideline. This is what keeps people out of the game and not winning in life, winning financially. Okay, let's say you end up buying this $12,428 a month payment. I went into MortgageCoach and I hit the negative mark when you go into the payment section I just put it under HOA. You guys could probably help me put it in a better column, but I put negative $9,000 a month in rent, or $8,700 a month in rent. It gives me a total monthly payment now, if I rent out the place, of $34.28 a month. Average rents in Seattle for a 2-bedroom to 3-bedroom, 1 to 2 bath home or an apartment, you guys, is $3,100 to $3,500 a month. Okay, so look at this. You can buy a $1.5 million home essentially for $3,400 a month. And so this is where I tie it all together. Guys, column number 3, if you were to go out in the marketplace and say, I've got my budget's $3,500 a month, that qualifies you for a $475,000 house. So the light bulbs are starting to go off for these people. Now I go down to the total net worth. In 5 years, your total net worth by buying a $475,000 house is $219,000. By buying this fourplex, $543,000. So what we're showing people right now is how to create absolute wealth. Oh, by the way, you could do this every year, every other year. Instead of having to put 20% down, save your money, put 5% down, live in it. A year or so from now, do it again, put another 5% down on another multifamily home, live in it a year or so later, do it again. And so this is called leverage, using other people's money. And let's say your current rent right now is $2,600, $2,800 a month. Cool. For $500 more a month, you're creating $500,000+. What is it? $543,000 greater net worth over the next 5 years. So this is how I'm using. Deb teaches this. It's news hacking. I'm teaching and showing something that came out in the news, how we can apply it in our business, and how we can help people create massive wealth through real estate.
Boom. Deborah, anything you want to call out on that?
Well, in order to do that, you have to be a student of your trade. And as much as Dan Keller is a phenomenal teacher and coach, and he asks great questions, he's also relentless and disciplined at studying the market to be able to have conversations like this and be the advisor where he delivers it with confidence. And again, it's that whole show me that you know me. He's providing data and evidence behind the words so people can easily follow along with the strategy. So, Dan, you always kill it. You do a great job. I do want to address, we had a question in the chat. Can I go ahead and ask?
Real quick, before we go to that question, I want to, and we get too far past it, I do want to give everybody a little hack, and even Dan, a suggestion that when you're in the Mortgage Coach total cost analysis, if you go to the monthly cost screen, there's something called other right here.
Yep.
And you can income and then put a negative number there and do the same thing. So I just wanted to let y'all know that is the place to do it. On the second screen where it says other, you can customize that and put in rental income. That, guys, game changing. Go ahead, Deborah.
Any suggestions on if you're dealing with the FHA buyer, Dan, and you're trying to do the 2-1 buy down for someone who's having a hard time getting those offers accepted? Is there any other strategy that you're deploying to help them win? This was from Marina, I believe.
Yeah. So with FHA, I wish, Marina, I had a better answer for you. I'm up in Seattle. I wish from a P&L standpoint, we had more FHA buyers. I don't do a ton of FHA. Strategy wise with FHA, what is the feedback and the pushback? Just it's a weaker loan program, and the sellers are like, no, we don't want FHA. Is that the pushback? So what I do, if that is the pushback, I have every single one of my clients pre-underwritten. I think, guys, having confidence talking with realtors is so important. So when I call a realtor and they're like, it's VA or it's FHA, and I'm like, yeah, so what? Like, I'm local right here in Kirkland. My clients have been fully underwritten, approved. What's your fear? Well, they're not putting anything down. I'm like, they've been fully underwritten, approved. They've got $42,000 in the bank. What, are you worried about a low appraisal? How many low appraisals have you seen? I haven't. So being able to have a conversation with realtors and really push back to support your client and your process breeds confidence. That's one of the ways that I overcome the FHA or VA objection.
Cool. So, hey, Paul, what were your thoughts on that as a borrower, not in the industry, but someone outside the industry?
Well, I did have one question that came up, and with this new fourplex possibility you presented, does it have to be a home, or can someone use this as an investment property and not move into it?
It's got to be occupied. You got to occupy a unit.
A unit. So you get a fourplex, and like, but one of your kids, what about like if you have a kid who's a college student, doesn't really have income yet, but has good credit, can they be the owner and then the parents help with the down payment and they buy it as a family?
Yeah. Yeah. You can get down. That's the really great thing about this program that
College fourplex.
oh, hold on. I'm getting some feedback here, guys. There we go. That, yeah, you can use gift funds for that down payment. So that is important, but yeah, it's just,
But remember, the kid's going to college, doesn't have income. Can you give the gift fund and the income?
That's a good one to verify. I don't want to go on. There's probably a lot of loan gurus here that'd be like, Keller, you were wrong. So I don't want to answer that unless I know for
Yeah, possibly co-sign on it. But yeah, no, that's the sort of thing that was exactly going through my mind is, what are the ways, because with more information, what are the ways we can spin this? What are the ways we can turn it into an investment for our college age kids and that sort of thing? And obviously as parents, we want to help them, but we don't want to give it to them. They're going to work for it. They're going to manage this property. They're going to help bring in that income. They're going to work for everything that they're getting. But how do we help give them a leg up, or use our situation to amplify the possibility here? So what an incredible possibility.
Dan Keller, you're the man. We're going to create some micro content. Deb, I'm going to go into wrap up mode. Anything you want to say before I close this out?
Just remind everyone, I put the link in the chat. Dan Keller has a free coaching group for loan officers. So make sure you check that out and join his group and continue to get coached by him, because obviously he's a world-class loan officer.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan. And I want to just remind everybody, guys, this is not just another day. This is Veterans Day. Make sure you say thank you to the folks that serve America, and take time and watch one of these. We'll put a link down below, but this is a playlist, VA loans for military borrowers. And remember, guys, it is not just another loan. It is a benefit for serving our country. Let's go the extra mile, be smart on how to serve families that have the VA benefit. So watch one of these interviews today. So hopefully you got value. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye. Nice to meet you, Paul.
Nice to meet you too.
All right. Take care, everybody.